And so we went over all the ingredients, and all the main ingredients were exactly the same. There were only two minor differences. What were the differences? Coach Greg, and I'm here with
Marwan Hagar.
And we're going over what you didn't know about Gymshark's new pre-workout. It's a copycat. Remember Remington James? Voila!
And voila! And voila!
Voila!
Well, we're going to explain exactly what's going on with their formula and that it's not actually their own formula. And so it was actually copied from
All Black Everything. It's a UK brand that has a very popular selling pre-workout, and they also released a Patty Pimlet flavor of their pre-workout.
And so we went over all the ingredients, and all the main ingredients were exactly the same. There were only two minor differences. What were the differences?
In the Gymshark formula, they have half of the B3 and half of the B12.
Right, and so vitamin B3, they halved it and put 40, and B12, well, they just halved that. But all the main ingredients, the ones you want, like creatine, beta-alanine, citrulline, all those, exactly the same. Just like Remington's recipe. Word for word, gram for gram, every ingredient, all exactly the same.
Voila!
Voila! Exact same as the other person. And so Gymshark has a copycat formula. But let's get into the formula. Is it actually good? As Derek said, well, they basically dropped their balls on your face with it. And is it actually that bad? Well, let's get right into it. And so one thing I noticed in Derek's videos is that they kept saying, well, it's 100 grams and that's silly. And so why does it say per 100 gram serving on the nutrition label?
There is one thing where in many countries they have different food regulations, and in the UK they do have to list everything per 100 grams, be it food supplements or food products.
So that just makes easier comparison. They want to have a golden standard per 100 grams. That way, a company can't get away with lying and saying, well, my serving is 50 grams and yours is 100, and they kind of tricky that way. So being standardized for 100 grams is just for easier comparison. And so the first thing I see, citrulline malate 2-to-1, 4 grams. Is that a good dose per scoop?
Well, the first thing is citrulline 2-to-1 is not pure citrulline. It does have a fair amount of malic acid, so you're not actually getting 4 grams of L-citrulline. You're probably getting significantly less. That is a good dose for improving blood flow and the general health benefits, but it is not a good dose for athletic performance, where I would have liked to seen double that amount.
And so really it says 4 grams, but it's less than 3. And so they're kind of like misleading you a little bit. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it's kind of underdosed in comparison to what you might expect. Up next, a supplement that I'm sure all of you can agree with is something that you would want to have, creatine monohydrate, and it's set in at 3.25 grams. Is it beneficial?
It's beneficial, but at this dosage, it is not the maintenance dose.
And so personally, I think that 3.25 grams, although it's low, it's certainly not going to hurt. It's certainly going to help, but you'd rather see it a bit higher, maybe 5 grams?
I would say 5 grams is great, but this is 3.25 grams. It's just shy of 5 grams by a little bit.
And so really, so far what I've seen is that it says there's 30 scoops in the container, and really if you took 1.5 scoops, that'd be all right. If you took the L-citrulline 1.5 scoops, you get a bit more, probably be closer to 5 grams. 1.5 scoops of creatine be closer to 5 grams. What about up next? Beta-alanine. I love this stuff. And for me, it makes a huge difference. And I've watched a number of Derek's videos as well as Sean Naljewick, and they highly downplay how effective this stuff is. And so they're saying you need to have a saturation point of approximately 176 grams. And so it takes a long time to build up. And Derek himself says it helps maybe 2 to 3%. I don't know about you, but 2 to 3%, if I go 2 to 3 seconds faster on a 100-second effort, do you know how much difference that makes? I'm losing races by 0.1 of a second. If I can go 2 or 3 seconds faster, mind-blowing. Derek says you have to get to 176 grams before it starts to work, but what do you opinion of that? What about if you're halfway there? Is it not going to maybe give you half the benefits of 2 to 3%?
I think that's a very arbitrary number where it depends on your body weight, your diet, and many other factors. So I'm not going to stick to the 176 variable, where if you feel that it's working, if you're tracking your metrics and seeing you're getting slightly better each month.
And so what do you think about taking 2 grams a day? Is it a waste of time, just giving you itchy butthole? What is going on? Is this a good dose?
You only get the itchy butthole after the first few scoops, and then your body gets used to it and you no longer even feel it. And at 2 grams, I would say that is a fair dose, and eventually you'll reach the point where you're saturated.
And so personally, I'm taking 4 grams a day and I don't get an itchy butthole at all. I barely even feel the tingles. I could take double that dose. And so I don't understand how people are freaking out. Oh, the tingle, I can't handle it. For me, it's highly effective. I like it. And so if you enjoy beta-alanine, then I say go for it. Up next, we got taurine, and I'm seeing 200. That number looks really low. What do you think of 200 taurine?
Firstly, taurine is usually included in pre-workouts for a variety of reasons. Some people think it has like mental effects. It can increase your GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that makes you more relaxed. So it kind of offsets some fatigue in a sense, where the minimum dose is usually 500 milligrams to a gram. And some bodybuilders that get horrible lower back pumps take taurine to prevent that. So it has a lot of effects on the body. It is taken by many athletes for a variety of reasons.
And are you surprised it's only 200? Because I'm seeing 200. It's not expensive. I'm like, why wouldn't they just bump it up to, say, 500? I want 1,000. Like 500 would be good, but 200?
Yeah, at 200, I can't see anything going on except maybe some minor, I guess, neurological effects. But you won't have a performance-enhancing effect at that dose.
Yeah, and so it's better than nothing, but certainly could do better. But caffeine up next. Now, this is not bad. 200 milligrams of caffeine. Derek was saying, I don't know, it's not really sure it could help your performance. 200, that is a lot. That can actually help a ton. What do you think of 200 caffeine? I think this guy needs 200 caffeine right now.
Yeah.
He was up, 12 hours cardiology last night?
Yeah, last night I probably had a gram of caffeine trying to stay up on the cardiology unit, but that's another story.
And so this is the aftermath. When you're working harder than last time, you're not resting enough, you get a little sleepy. In comparison to Coach Greg, had 9 hours sleep. I'm vibing.
200 milligrams of caffeine is a dose you will certainly feel if you're not caffeine naive, where a lot of us are caffeine tolerant because a lot of the things we consume have caffeine. Like, how many milligrams are in a Pepsi?
55 or so on a Diet Pepsi.
So if you were to equate the amount of caffeine in this, you just have to drink 4 Diet Cokes. Or 4 Diet Pepsis. And
200 milligrams that's like 2 cups of coffee. And in case you're wondering, the effective dose for caffeine, it's approximately 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram. And so if you're 100 kilograms, that's a lot. That's big. That's 220 pounds. You'd need 100 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. That's right in the middle. And so 200, I certainly think that's effective. I can tell you right now, if I consume 200 milligrams of caffeine, I'd be vibing even more. I'd be like, wow, I feel good. I want to talk all the time. Yeah. I asked him if he wanted coffee before this. He's like, no, I'm saving it for the gym because he's like, Coach Greg, he wants to take his caffeine around the gym. He doesn't want to use it all the time. So he uses it when he needs it. Like last night, cardiology, you have to stay up. If you're on a 12-hour shift and you're at a hospital and you sleep, it's bad. And Theocrine, 100 milligrams. What the heck's what's with that?
Theocrine is very similar to caffeine. You can find it in coffee beans. It's the latest innovation in xanthines, which is a class of compound of caffeine, theobromine, theocrine. Dynamine is another patented version. Pretty much they do the same thing, although slightly different. Theocrine is a paradoxical compound where at a smaller dose it can actually make you sleepier than last time, but when you up the dose it can kind of have the same effects of caffeine with a longer half-life.
Okay, and so by them putting in 100 milligrams of this in this formula, what is that going to do to the consumer? Like how beneficial is it? Do you like the ingredient? Do you like the dose? Just give us a bit more on this subject.
Well, firstly, I would like Gymshark to specify if this is 40% theocrine or 100%. Because it could very well be 40%. A lot of people megadose theocrine and feel absolutely nothing. And many people, like my twin brother, take it and experience amazing effects. My twin brother has narcolepsy, diagnosed, I think.
I have it as well. And maybe I need the theocrine.
Yeah, so one day he was driving a cab and he had the problem where he was falling asleep on the night shifts. I got him some theocrine and he said it was a miracle substance. It kept him up, no side effects. Whereas myself, when I take it, I want to go straight to bed.
And I've heard that about different things. Some people have even told me that they take caffeine and it makes them sleepy. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I don't get it. But well, how am I going to argue with them? They take it and they get sleepy.
Right on. Have you ever heard of caffeine naps? Some people, prior to going to bed, they actually take caffeine because apparently that hour of sleep with caffeine in your system, they say, can equate to like 2 hours of sleep. It has to do with like knocking off the adenosine from your brain whereas sleep with caffeine is more efficient than sleep without caffeine, if you can even fall asleep.
That's interesting because something I used to do when I was younger is, and I'd have to get up and do morning cardio and empty stomach because I was all into that stuff. I would wake up and I'd be so tired. It's like we're 4:30 in the morning, and I would take up and take my caffeine pills by my bed, take them, quickly go back to sleep, and then I'd let it wake me up, and then I'd be like, and then I would just run to the gym. So Is that possible that actually helped my sleep? Like I got an extra 30 to 45 minutes in the morning, and then when I woke up, I was raring to go. But I did crash later in the day, which does make sense.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So the act of going to sleep knocks adenosine out of the receptors, and the act of drinking coffee prevents adenosine from binding to receptors. And if adenosine is actually the compound that is responsible for making us fatigued from going to bed, then hypothetically speaking, maybe you can supercharge your sleep by doing what you did.
And that's really interesting. Now, we're not suggesting you go and do this, because what I actually do is I try to hold off consuming caffeine for later in the day. And I know Andrew Huberman suggests the same thing. You wake up, don't take your coffee right away. Wait a little bit later, go out in the sun, get the sunlight in your body, open the windows, and just save it for later. That way you don't get that immediate crash. Many people, they drink coffee first thing in the morning, or perhaps they're taking their pre-workout, going to the gym, and then 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're crashing.
Yeah, what does Andrew Huberman say about waiting a little bit before you take your caffeine?
He suggests at least 90 minutes before you have your morning coffee, 90 minutes to 2 hours. If you can hold that off, it's going to allow you to wait that much longer, because you're naturally going to wake up from the sun. You don't need the caffeine to do it, and then allow that to take it later, and then you'll get that much more benefit from it later in the day.
I definitely have to try that.
Overall, my opinion on this is that it's not that bad a supplement. It's not that expensive. The only problem is I think you'd probably need to take 1.5 scoops. So there's 30 servings, but if you took 1.5 servings, you'd get more citrulline, you'd get more creatine, you'd get more beta-alanine, and the caffeine would be higher. And so why not just take more? So if you're criticizing this thinking, oh, it's no good, is it really no good? It's got beta-alanine and creatine. It's got citrulline, just not a lot of citrulline. And so why not just take more? It's not that expensive. What was it, 30 pounds? It's like, what, $38 US, something like that? It's not that expensive. It's not that bad. But it is, in fact, copied from All Black Lives Matter. What was that thing? Black, all black, everything.
Yeah.
Everything black.
All black everything.
ABE, all black everything. I think that's because the container's black.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
I wonder if the powder's actually black.
That would be interesting, yeah.
So it says, warning, extremely potent. Do not exceed 1 serving. Well, scratch that. I just said take 1.5 scoops. Don't listen to me. I'm obviously a moron. Is it really that powerful?
Or I would probably recommend this for someone that's caffeine naive at 1 scoop. But if you have your caffeine and you know what it does to your body, then I don't think the 2 scoops.
Maybe it's an extremely potent warning for anyone that's never had a pre-workout before, or for people who are pussies. Like, I watch Chris Bumstead. He's like, don't be a pussy and have 2 scoops. Isn't that a saying?
Yeah, I've heard him say that a few times. 2 scoops, that's like... In fact, nowadays we're starting to see pre-workout scoops increase in size. So
yeah,
I think
200 milligrams, not a lot. I know is it the FDA or the RDA that says 400 milligrams of caffeine a day? That's the suggested dose that's, safe.
Right on. And I work in a cardiology unit where many of my patients have conditions where caffeine would not be the compound they should be consuming, where they actually drink coffee right around the clock. I'm always seeing them pouring instant packs of coffee, and I see their EKG monitor, and really nothing happens to them cardiac-wise because they're tolerant to caffeine.
Yeah, if you've never had a pre-workout before, obviously start with the lowest dose possible. It says don't exceed 1 scoop. I'm saying I would have scooped 1.5 a day. Just don't listen to me. And so remember, always get the advice and consent from your doctor. Don't take this as actual advice. Just listen to us for entertainment. We're just joking around here. But overall, I think this formula isn't that bad. I like what's in it. I like the beta-alanine. I like the creatine. I like the citrulline. It just, maybe it could be at a higher dose. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Do you think it's a copycat? As soon as I saw this formula, it reminded me of Remington James with the Voila. Hopefully you remember that. If you don't, well, it's the jokes above your head. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Rock knows it doesn't matter. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment for the algorithm, watch the bloops, and follow me on Instagram, Greg Doucette, IB Pro. And don't forget the cookbooks, the training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet book, HCLT subs, code Greg at 10% off. And until next time, We are out.